on our list, we have the Gsg Firefly. The Gsg Firefly is one of those firearms that doesn't really get a lot of notoriety with its name, being that it is just another clone. I think I picked this one up at a pawn shop for about $130 a few years ago, and to be honest with you, I've never seen another Gsg in my life. So let's get to it. So the Gsg is a 22 caliber handgun, coming standard with an 11 round 22 single stack magazine. The cool part about this is there is not a lot of polymer or plastic to this gun. It really is just kind of a solid clone build. Normally when I see a lot of these knockoffs, they are pretty chintzy, they're prone to break and malfunction. You know, a little bit of oil in this gun went a long way. I think I ran 500 rounds through it, and I really only had maybe 6 misfires or malfunctions throughout that time. Soft strikes on the primer or failure to reject. But outside of that, it does cycle really nicely for a little Cheap.22. As you can see here, the barrel is rather short, being that it is kind of the clone to a quote-unquote carry gun. But I don't know many people that carry 22 long rifle as their daily carry. But we'll get into that a little bit later. As you can see, again, the firearm is unloaded for you viewers out there. Make sure that you're pointing it in a safe direction. Keep these guys locked up when you're not using them. Obviously, at this point, there's no one here around me, so we're just going ahead to make sure that we're in a safe surrounding when we're handling this kind of stuff. Moving right along, the Gsg Firefly does come standard with some handy features such as these front and rear night sights. We also have a ambidextrous safety up at the top here. Standard, same as the Gsg 226, as well as the Gsg Mosquito and 225. Locking this guy back here, we do have just a little bit of housing for that 22 caliber. I have found that although this firearm states to use 22 long rifle, the CCI mini mags are the only 22 caliber round that I found that properly cycles without malfunction in this firearm. Maintenance is pretty easy, a little bit of oil like any other 22, keep it clean and free and debris. Taking it apart is rather simple. What you'll do is on the back side here, you'll see that we have this dropping down lever. You want to go ahead and spin that a full 180 degrees. Dropping your hammer in, or your slide forward, you'll go ahead and pull that decocking lever on the side here. This is what's going to go ahead and send the hammer home. There we go. You'll go ahead, slide that back again. And the tricky part to this one, unlike most other firearms, is you will actually lift off the back, slide it forward, which will expose the firing mechanism as well as the kind of inner workings of the firearm. Pretty basic slide. A lot of it really isn't powder coated or sprayed inside. The outside is a Cerakote for that coyote brown color that seems to be becoming increasingly popular. We don't really see a lot of these here, but they are manufactured down in Summerville, South Carolina, which I thought was pretty neat, being that it is kind of a clone, similar to how the Taurus that we talked about in the last segment was manufactured in Brazil, but it is stamped out here in Miami, Florida. So, it does come with 2 springs. I use the lower tension spring just because I found that with the high tension, it does run into issues with cycling the rounds. So what we do to put it back together is you take this little itty bitty pin, slide that in there. You'll actually take the very end of this, and it does slide to the very bottom in that little housing there. So you'll go ahead and slide that right in, let that rest there. You will meet the slide with the spring. Go ahead and drop that guy in there, slide all the way back as it sits. You'll go ahead and slide your little lever here as far back as you can. You do need to make sure that this is decocked, or else you do run into issues as you try to get it together. So slide that in there, lock that back in place as best you can. It does get a little finicky, being that it is a 22, there is a lot of smaller components inside this firearm, which make it kind of tricky to necessarily get it to seat properly. The kind of nice part, and I say kind of nice only because with certain firearms and decocking levers, they are always on the back. The interesting part about the Gsg Firefly is that it feels like it wants to go farther than it does. So you just kind of got to be careful. Like I said, there aren't many plastic pieces, but these are kind of the cheaper built things here. So that'd be the Gsg Firefly, again running 22 caliber long rifle. CCI Mini Mag is probably one of the better ones to use as far as firing goes. I had very minimal malfunctions with that. Very nice plinky gun if you're going to carry something like this, to be able to practice with a smaller frame while still having comparable weight. Alrighty. So decocking lever is cool, and you can okay. That's nice.